Hello, 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 everyone. Once again, my name is Triple P, Tripple dot P, aka Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. And I cannot thank you guys enough for those who are actually on time in the live stream. You guys are actually ahead of me. And I'm actually working on it, man. I'm actually trying my very, very best to make it on time. However, there's always some technical difficulties, but we're getting closer and closer and closer to the actual 10 o'clock on time. So, again, like I said, once again, Triple P, Tripple aka Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. And I will just give you guys an update to what's going on. Today's video will be another very powerful and very informative video. I cannot stress the importance of this video. Very educational as usual. And the effort, all of you guys, the time, the effort you guys take to watch the streams, you guys are so, so much appreciated. Your time is very valued. Your attention is very valued. I know these days time and attention is not so common. Everybody has a very short attention span. So I do thank each and every one of you again, especially for joining the stream and actually being ahead of me. So again, once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And today's topic will be another, again, very powerful educational life transformation topic: life after death contemplation. That is what this video will be all about. This live stream, we will look into the concept of death, basically being alive, what we consider to be alive or dead. And also the thumbnail says that you are already dead, alive or dead. So that should give you guys some indication what the channel today's stream will be all about. Basically, we will be looking at whether we are actually alive or dead. And being dead does not necessarily mean that we actually are going to be in the grave. Many of us are actually alive, and we do not, we waste our lives for one reason or another. We pretty much, life just passes us by, and we do not get to enjoy the one very life that we were given, that we were blessed with. And this is what this video was going to be all about. So if you're looking to actually get a fresher look on life, maybe a different perspective on life, this video, this live stream reaction will be for you. However, before I get started, very, very briefly, I'd like to make an announcement. If there are any updates that needs to be said, I like to let you guys know if there are any changes with the live stream channel as well. And so with that being said, as usual, there are really no new updates per se. However, just going over everything again briefly, as usual, for those of you who may know and be familiar with me, you guys can find me on these platforms right here live. We have just recently uh, joined these two right here on the right side, these two social media platforms on the right side. Obviously, you could Google us. You could search for Seven Seals Astrology Prophetics, and you also could search for Triple P, and you most likely will find me somewhere on one platform or another. So again, as usual, we are actually, nothing has changed with the live stream. We are actually still going live every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 p.m. That is the actual time. We are still uh, sticking with that so far. And if something changes, I will let you guys know. Definitely, if something changes with the time, that is why these announcements are so important. Despite the fact I may be saying the same thing over and over, but sometimes things do change. And again, as usual, these are the platforms that we are going live on. As it stands, we are upgrading our system, and we will be going live to technically The goal is to go live on all of these platforms simultaneously. That is the goal. But however, the system that we have right now is not so equipped. But we are going to be upgrading that very shortly. And right now, we are just going live on the top social media platforms that we see on top. And then the goal again is to go live on the remaining four at the bottom. But you can find us again on all of these platforms. Basically, you could find us everywhere on all of these platforms. And again, I cannot stress this enough. The content that we usually talk about will be adult content subject matters, relationships, sex, affairs, cheating, the list goes on. The game, love, everything you could think of, any type of adult subject matter, spiritual concepts, spiritual subject matters, God, spirituality, different religious beliefs, how they affect us, and so forth and so on. The list goes on and on. That is why, again, this is a late show, and we're looking at adult content, 18 and older. I cannot stress that enough. And if you are in that range as well, I highly suggest, even I would say at best or even at worst, some adult supervision should be uh, will be accepted as well. Because I again, some of the conversations is not for younger viewers. So if you are looking for topics that are mind uh, expanding the mind, theoretical, philosophical, deep subject matters, this is the channel for you. However, if you are a person you just pretty much are very dogmatic, you think you know everything, you don't have any room for growth, and you just pretty much very impatient, and you don't have the time to look into anything else, this is not gonna be the channel for you. So, again, for those who are in the stream, thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot stress that enough. How valuable your time and attention is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today's video again, life after death contemplation. You are already dead. We're gonna start this video. And again, I cannot stress the importance. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for those of you guys who've stuck around, you guys who've participated, who guys have supported the stream, and so forth and so on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're gonna start the video without further ado.
Oh. Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Triple P, TRIPPLE.P. And I am your astrology pimp, your astrology prophet, and your astrology priest. And today's 7 Seers Astrology Prophetics video topic will be true life after death. And by now, I think most of you guys have seen many of my videos with the underlining topic of know thyself. Again, this video is also related. In fact, all of the videos will be related to the same topic, but we're just going to keep diving deeper and deeper into more subject matters related to the knowing thyself. So with that being said, again, from a religious perspective, there are many different beliefs. Some individuals believe that after life, you may go somewhere, whether it be Sheol, heaven, hell, different places that we have the concept of an afterlife going somewhere. However, today I'm going to talk about the afterlife or death, if I may say, while we are alive. And many individuals may say, wow, what are you talking about? I am alive. However, spiritually speaking, many of us may be walking, talking, breathing, eating, sleeping, drinking, and doing all the things that we do in our daily lives. However, many of us are actually dead. So with this understanding, we will come to a conclusion whether we are dead or alive. But the only thing stands between us having this knowledge is understanding. So one may say, what understanding do I have to achieve to know whether I am dead or alive? And definitely, if you're asking the question whether I'm dead or alive, it is most likely that you are dead. So with that being said, I'm going to go deeper and dive a little bit deeper with the concept of being dead, wise being alive. And again, all of my videos are based around the concept of knowing thyself and knowing who you are and asking the self, who am I? So again, until this answer is known, there will always be confusion, there will always be pain and suffering. And the solution to pain and suffering is to know thyself. So many of us again would say that I was born alive. Yes, you was born alive, per se. You was there was you was born and your parents gave birth to you. However, most individuals may not understand that just from being born does not automatically put you in a position of being alive. So again, being born does not mean that you are alive. Being born gives you the opportunity to find life. And again, I'm not coming from a religious perspective, being born again type of religious perspective. However, I am coming from more of a non-dualist perspective with the understanding that if we do not know who you are and what you are also dead, nevertheless. So again, when we were born, we were given the opportunity to find life. However, until we find this life, spiritually speaking, if I may say, we would be considered dead. So, how do we find this life again? Only through self inquiry and to know thyself as being the ultimate reality, the pure consciousness, the pure awareness, the being, the I, the isness, the oneness, the one that is aware of being aware. And that is only then that we will come to the conclusion that we are alive. But until then, we are not alive. So, for example, most of my videos, I would say all of my videos, I create videos by the sea. Hopefully, I'm not quite sure if the sea is seen behind me right now, but I'm going to move to the sea, for example, to give you guys a better example of what I'm saying. So there are many levels. There are many levels to this understanding of knowing thyself. In many spiritual cultures, unfortunately, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this view a little bit more here. I'm going to make this a little bigger, uh, a lot bigger, so we could get some clarity on this. Uh, a little view too, actually. There's a little surrounding view around me somewhat. And however, again, if we look closely at the water is basically one land mass of water. And most individuals, I'm just giving you guys a little view in the surrounding areas of where I'm at. But however, I'm actually trying to focus on the water. So again, the land mass that we see, there are many waves. I mean, actually, the waves, the water today is actually quite calm, so it doesn't really look so choppy. However, there are small waves that's moving to and fro. So again, there are different levels. You would say that the first level of this knowledge, this understanding would be some individuals. Let me zoom in a little bit. Here you might see, I think you might see some seaweed somewhere. I'm not quite sure if you see any, if I could find some seaweed somewhere. Let me zoom back. Let me zoom back out and see if I see some seaweed. Hopefully, yeah, we could see some seaweed on the ground there. Somewhere on the ground, there's some seaweed. So again, so the first level of this understanding of who we are, most individuals are pretty much uh, pretty much. I'm going to get back to me, and I'm going to get back to the sea. Again, most individuals are pretty much uh, ignorant to the fact of who they truly are, and most individuals will see themselves as being the labels, you know, the objects, being the job, being the parent, being the titles that they think that they are. Most individuals believe that, again, they are the titles. I am this, I am that, but they don't go any further than that. On a surface level, again, they think that they are their gender. I am a male, I am a female, I am this, and I am that. And that would be an example of the seaweed. Again, that's going back to the sea. That would be an example of the seaweed that's on a seashore. Uh, Individuals not having a grasp, having a good concept or a pure concept of who they are, they would automatically associate themselves with the objects. This first level of understanding, most individuals don't even associate themselves with being a part of the sea, because they totally see themselves as being an object. They tend to see themselves as being, uh, again, a label. I am this, I am that, and so forth and so on. So most individuals would associate themselves with being the seaweed. I am the body, I am this, I am that. And that would be more, and again, being completely uh, ignorant, if I may say, of the true self. That would be somewhat of a first level, that would be somewhat of a first level spiritual understanding of the self. And so with that level of understanding, we would say that someone is completely dead, per se, spiritually speaking, because that individual does not even have a clear understanding of, they just totally relate to being the object. They might feel somewhat, they might think, you know, they might think that they have a mind and things of that sort, but they don't think there's anything else more to them than the physical body per se.
So I think hopefully, I mean, I shouldn't say hopefully, but I think we're gonna see where I'm gonna go, which road I'm gonna take, which avenue I'm gonna take, because again, all of the videos that I create has something to do with self-awareness. No matter what topic I'm talking about, again, that is why again they call me Triple P, Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. So I could talk about God, spirituality, and then the next minute I'm talking about some bitches and some hoes, you know. So I'm all over the place. So it's not one thing that I'm actually talking about per se. So at the same time, if we do not know who we are and what we are, we tend to believe in this false illusory self. And again, from an Advaita Vedanta perspective, the whole, all of the teachings of these concepts is to come to some self realization, to know who you truly are, what you are, and what you are not. So that is the goal, what we're trying to achieve here, the self-realization. And so, as we could see so far, I'm getting into looking at the self or knowing the self on different levels. And so, again, just going over what I said briefly, the first level would be more so individuals just associating themselves with being the body, being the titles, like I said, believing that they are this, believing that they are that, and they do not necessarily think of themselves as anything else but the body. I am a male, I am a female, and so on and so forth. And that would be more so again of a first level of being completely uh, non-aware of being anything else other than the objective titles that we label ourselves as.
So again, these individuals would be more considered associated with the seaweeds, and but not anything else. And that would be the first level of understanding. However, then you would see individuals, you would go to a second level of understanding. The individuals, I'm going to go back to the sea right now. Then the second level of understanding is the individuals, they would see themselves more so as being uh, the waves. That would be a different level. Unfortunately, the water is pretty smooth and calm today. Unfortunately, I was hoping for maybe a little bit more rougher waves, so you could differentiate the difference. But again, some more, zooming in some more, you can see that these individuals believe that they are they believe that they are the waves, and this would be a second, again, a different level of understanding. Like I would say there would be three to four levels. Let's leave it at four maximum. But anyhow, so these individuals would still identify themselves as being separate. They might see themselves as being uh, the waves, but they don't necessarily see themselves as being part of the sea as yet. So these individuals, again, the first level, the seaweed, I am me, you are me, or I am me, you are you, complete, totally different, separated individuals, no understanding that there is any relation to each other because they totally associate themselves with being the seaweed. And then the second level would be the individuals who may see themselves as being the waves. Now, these individuals are getting a lot closer. They're moving a lot closer to becoming alive, per se. However, they are not there as yet. So again, these individuals would say, oh, I am a separate wave. And they see all the waves, and they may assume, or they may say that all of the waves are connected in some way, some shape, or some form. So that would be a higher level of understanding. However, that will not be necessarily the ultimate understanding, and you would still be considered dead because you are still seeing the self as a real entity or a real being. You have not dissolved the self into the oneness, the isness, the beingness of what you are at the core. So again, now the individuals with the understanding of being the waves, they tend to have a little bit more spiritual understanding. They may maybe meditate or do some things of that sort. However, there still is a separation. These individuals, they tend to say, okay, I am a part of you, you are a part of me. And these individuals, again, there is an elevation again from being the seaweed. But however, the individuals are still somewhat seeing themselves to be separate. So again, so now these individuals that see themselves or think of themselves as being the waves, they are getting closer. However, they are not there as yet. So these individuals feel some strong connection. They may know that there's something that connects us. However, they may not be so sure or so clear on their understanding. And which this video is all about, bringing some clarity to having an understanding, because without understanding, it is impossible. That is why, from a biblical perspective, the Bible says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. And without the knowledge and the information, the understanding cannot be achieved. So the first thing must be achieved is the information. So again, so now the second stage would be the individuals back to the sea again. The individuals would be more seeing the sea. And these individuals would see themselves as being, sorry, not the sea, these individuals would see themselves as being separate waves, and they somehow believe there is a connection, but they may not necessarily know what that connection may be. Or they may have some strong inclination that we are all connected in one way, one shape, or one form. You might hear them say one love, one people, one race, or different things of the sort. However, the illusion still persists that there is some type of separation.
So, as time goes on throughout this video and throughout all of the subject matters that I do talk about, we will realize that again, this self-awareness is at the core of everything that I teach and everything that I preach. I really don't preach, but everything that I talk about is at the core about self-awareness. And so this self-awareness that we're talking about, this knowing thyself, again, goes in stages. Like I said, the first subject, the first individuals were more so like the seaweeds. They saw themselves to be completely separate individuals, not even being aware that they are part of the sea, that they are being a part of the whole. They consider them to be themselves to be completely separate entities from everything and everyone else. And then we see an elevation in spirituality. Some individuals now may be coming into some type of spiritual practice, maybe starting to practice meditation, or maybe going to some ashram or something of the sort, maybe seeking some guidance from a guru or something of that sort. And so these individuals are now starting to realize that maybe there is some connection between you and I. Maybe I'm not so separate as I once thought. And then, they start to sing One Love, Bob Marley song, One Love, you know what I'm saying? They start to sing that, and then they start to believe, like, that maybe there's more to this than meets the eye. Maybe I should really try my best to love my neighbor as I love myself. But there still is a separation between the neighbor and self. They're still not quite fully there as yet in reference to non-duality. There still is a big difference in the perception of themselves and the other. They still see the other as being separate from themselves. But however, the connection is getting a lot deeper, the bond is getting a lot stronger, and that is more so of a second level up, if I may say, to coming to knowing thyself from a non-dualistic Advaita Vedanta perspective. And so, but however, many individuals may stay on this level, and most individuals may believe that that is all there is, because this level itself is very difficult to break free from this non-dual from the duality concept, because the concept, once we believe that I am me and you are you, that separation concept is very, very hard to break. The illusion of the false self, the ego, that is not an easy task to separate oneself from. That is why the illusion is so powerful. If it was very easy to do, everyone will be doing it. And I would also say that the root cause of all of the suffering and the wars and everything else and atrocities is because of individuals not knowing who they are and seeing each other as being separate. Because if we did know who you are, if you did know, had a strong inclination at least that you are not separate from me and I am not separate from you and we are all the same, then a lot of our atrocities throughout the world will actually cease to exist. But however, because we do see each other as separate, we do see each other as you and me and them and they and other, we tend to have the ability to harm one another. We have the ability to pretty much do anything to another because we do not believe that that person is a part of us. If somebody looks different, we tend to treat them a certain way. If they sound different, we treat them a certain way, and that is just the reality of it. And that is what these videos are all about: coming to one's self-realization to know that there is no separation or no difference between you and I. There's only the illusion that persists, that keeps us feeling that we are separate and different from one another.
So as time goes on, even further and deeper, as you grow and you get more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, further understanding the true nature of who and what you are, then you would move to a third level. A third level is understanding that you are the sea. Then you would say, oh, yes, I am the sea. And that is also a great a much more deeper understanding, rather than being the seaweed, uh, rather than being a seaweed, and rather than being an individual wave. Now this individual looks at themselves as being the whole mass, the land, the whole mass. I am the sea, all the sea around me, and that is a much deeper level of understanding of who you are. However, that individual still does not fully understand that there is also another level to this spiritual understanding of what you are. And that level of understanding is that you are the water itself. Because until you understand you are the water does not end at a particular place. The water right now, we're looking at the water here right now, and this water goes all in the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, goes to all the Caribbean islands, goes to all of the European islands, everywhere everywhere Canada, wherever you could think of, there's water. That water is all the same water. And that is what I'm trying to get at today, to get individuals to understand who they are at the deepest level and the deepest fundamental level, that they are water. So when you try to see yourself as the wave, which is a very good, which is good, which is also good, that's a huge step up. And even when you see yourself as the seaweed, that still is a step, that is still is a step in the right direction, because you at least acknowledge yourself as being the seaweed. However, ultimately, you are the water, which is comprised of all of the oceans, all of the rivers, all of the seas, wherever they may be, you are part of that water. The water that we see right now, the river, the water that we see right now in front of me, this water does, despite the fact this water being, I'm going to go a little deeper. This water, despite the fact being at this location, this particular location, give you guys a little view again where I'm at. But anyhow, despite the fact this view, sorry, the water being at this particular location, the water here is also associated with the same water in a particular ocean, at a particular river, at a particular sea. No matter where you are, this water is also the same water. However, some waters may have more contaminants than others. Some waters may be more clearer than others. Some waters may be a little bit more, there may be fresh water. Some water there may be salt water, and so forth and so forth. However, all of the waters are still one water. So with that being said, that is what we are trying to achieve, the understanding of what we truly are. We are the water itself. So also, many individuals by now know that I sometimes utilize the clouds, the space above me, and that too would be a great example to give you guys a better understanding of who you are, because again, until you come to understand who you truly are, you are still considered technically dead, because you have not found the true self as yet. You are just living your life, going on, doing whatever you do, going to work, having fun, whatever challenges, whatever opportunities, whatever the case may be, you are not aware as yet of what you truly are. And when you come to that understanding of who and what you truly are, then you can know yourself and become free from all of the bondages. But until then, you will always be trapped, believing that you are the seaweed, or you are the waves, or you are the sea, not realizing that you are the water itself. And another example would be, again, the clouds, the sky, the space.
So, very, very powerful concept. I don't want that to just overlook that concept. So, starting out as a seaweed, thinking to be separate, completely separate, not even being aware that it's a part of the sea or anything else in the sea, not being aware of the other fishes or anything, just completely ignorant of the fact that it's associated with other things around it. And then some individuals start to evolve spiritually, and then they start to believe or start to come to some awareness that maybe I could be considered a wave, and then at the same time still not really fully being aware that they are actually the sea itself. And then, like I said, some through some spiritual practices, things of that sort, and then over a period of time, they come to realize that okay, maybe I'm not just a separate wave, maybe I'm also a part of the sea. I am the sea itself. And so that is a big upgrade per se spiritually, thinking, and then after some time spiritually evolving, that individual realized that the same the same landmass is that they may be, whether they may be in a river, a stream, or a beach, or some smaller body of water. They come to realize that I too am also connected to the bigger landmass waters such as the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and so that individual over a period of time also starts to come to realization that hey, there is no separation from the waves and the seas and oceans. I am the water itself. And that is again what we need to come to understand, or I should say need, but need should not quite should is not a good word either, but that is the ultimate goal is to come to a non-dualist perspective to realize that I am also a part of everything. I am there's no separation between the wave and the sea and the oceans and the river and the streams as well. That is the ultimate goal, to come to that non-duality perspective. But however, because of our religious belief systems would never teach us that per se. It would always keep us separate, thinking that I am me and you are you and they are them and so forth and so on, because it is blasphemy to think of ourselves as being a part of the source, as being a part of the ultimate Brahman, ultimate Atman, God, consciousness, awareness. It is literally blasphemy to believe that there is no separation between the waves and the water. It is blasphemy to believe that there is no separation between oneself and the true self, which is God, or consciousness, or whatever, or awareness, whichever term you feel most comfortable with.
I'm gonna go up now to let you guys to see what I'm talking about here. So we see the clouds and we see the space surround the clouds. The clouds themselves would be considered on a lower level of understanding. Individuals might consider themselves to be the clouds, and then they might think that, oh, I am the clouds individually, just like being a seaweed. And then some individuals may believe or come to the understanding that they are also just like the seaweed, coming to understand and believing that they are the waves, independent waves. Some individuals may believe that they are not separate clouds. They are, see how some of the clouds are actually connected to each other, and they may believe that they are connected to each other, but they still see some type of separation. They may not understand that they are actually not the clouds at all. And so then you might see some individuals might move to a different level of understanding and say that, okay, I am all of the clouds at one time, you know, just appearing as different shapes and different forms. You know, like when we were kids, we looked at the clouds and we saw animals and shapes and different things. We try to find different things in the clouds, different shapes of objects and animals and all these things we try to find in the clouds. So, and that would be another level when the individual say, oh, I am also all of the clouds, just like moving from the seaweed to the water, to the waves, and to, sorry, from the seaweed to the waves, to the mass of the water, and to the mass of the ocean or the mass of the sea, until becoming water. So just like the individual also sees themselves as being one separate cloud, me, you, and then they tend to go a little further and see themselves as being, you know, maybe all of the clouds, being separate, being a part of all of the clouds. And then after a period of time, they will evolve to understand that the ultimate thing is that they are not the clouds at all. They are actually the sky. They are actually the space that the clouds reside in. So that is a different perspective when we come to the understanding that we are not the clouds, but we are the space that the clouds reside in. We are not the waves. We are not the seaweed. We are not the ocean, but we are the water itself. So until we come to this pure understanding, we will usually be misled. And so individual might say, why is this important? Because this is important because this is the only way you can truly know yourself. Because now you see, if you look at the screen, you see there's water and then there is the sky and the clouds, and this would be considered, so that's used for illustration purposes, two different dimensions. We have the water below and the clouds above. Well, let's say, for example, this is we're talking about heaven and hell right now. The heaven would be
Before I go into this analogy, this other allegorical example, like I said again, these concepts are only concepts because only thing someone has to teach or to give examples or words. We can only use words as an example to try to educate or teach. However, words in itself are very limited. So, therefore, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to describe something that is undescribable. And so, I'm trying to describe something that is unlimited by using limited things. So it's very difficult to actually try to express the unexpressible, but however, we can only use the objects and the things as the symbolic objects to try to get our point across because only then we can actually uh, make some type of sense. So using the seaweed and the sea and all that, hopefully you guys get some type of understanding of where I'm going with this. Just like I said, like the clouds, for example, the clouds, though the clouds may appear to be separate clouds, some individuals might at first, without having any type of spiritual background, real spiritual background. I'm not talking about religious background. I'm talking about spiritual background, meditation, going into deeper esoteric teachings. They might start to see themselves as the clouds, and then after a period of time, they might see themselves no longer as being individual clouds. They may start to connect the dots and say, okay, I'm connected to this cloud, I'm connected to that cloud, and I'm connected to this cloud. And then over a period of time, what's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, maybe I am all of the clouds because they realize that the clouds are still clouds, no matter what shape they have, whatever form they may appear in, all of them are clouds. And then so the individuals may evolve spiritually and come to the conclusion that, hey, I am all of the clouds, and over a period of time, that too will dissipate, and the individuals will realize that I am actually the space that contains the clouds. And so that is would be the ultimate goal. Just like coming to the ultimate goal is coming to the realizing that you are the water, all of the water, and then you're not the waves, you're not the Atlantic Ocean, you're not the Pacific Ocean, you're not the rivers, you're not the streams, you're not the beaches. You are literally all of the water. And so again, this concept would be another level up, realizing that you are also a part. You are sorry, you're not a part of the clouds per se. You are the container of the cloud. So now we're going into a different concept, using above and below, more so from a heaven and hell perspective. I think that is going to be a different
above and the hell would be
perspective.
below the earth. So without the understanding, the true understanding of who and what you are, it is very most likely that you would misplace your identity, and you would have all types of sorts of false beliefs and fears about going here, going there. After you die, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen to me, and this could happen to me. I'm going to burn forever, and the list goes on and on. So it is very important that we understand who and what we are to eliminate those fears. So, for example, again, just like the sea, I'm going to go back to using the sea as an example. Say, for example, when we look at each individual waves, again, most individuals may say, okay, I am the wave, right? Let's say I'm the wave. But what most individuals do not understand is that each individual wave, though it may appear to be a separate thing apart from the sea, it does not have its own identity. Each individual wave, all of the waves that we see, make up the actual whole sea. All of the seas are comprised of the waves. So how does this relate to you and I. So, for example, you might be an individual, and because you are not aware of what you are and who you are, you may tend to believe and mistaken your identity for being the false self, believing that you are the waves, you believing that you are the sea and not knowing you are the water, or you may believe that you are the clouds, not knowing that you are the space that maintain the clouds. So, for example, back to the waves again. Each individual waves, and this is going to go into, I'm going to go into, I just wanted to get some type of establishment, understanding of the difference of the levels of understanding of what and who you are, because it goes so deeper. Then you would start to get into topics such as reincarnation, after birth, death after life, after death, things of the sort, rebirth, a lot of Hindu, Buddhist type of concepts and things of the sort. For example, reincarnation or afterlife and so forth. When we see a wave, when we look at the wave and the wave, let's say, for example, the wave is you. Individuals who believe that when they die, they will go somewhere, they will go somewhere other than where they are at right now. They will go into heaven, or they will go to hell. So let's assume that's, for, metaphorically speaking, you are a wave. You are the wave. You are part of the whole now. Let's say you are a wave. Let me make this a little big again. You are the wave. You are the wave, and so scenery here. So you are the wave, and let's say being a wave, and unfortunately the water is not rough today. The water is fairly, very, very calm. Unfortunately, that is not working in my favor today, because I would have preferred to see more bigger waves, but there are no real waves per se at the moment. So again, you are the waves, and waves come and waves go. When, just like you were born and you live and you die, again, associate yourself with each wave that you see. Each wave may seem to be, again, separate. They may appear to be separate, but each wave is actually a part of the whole, and each wave is actually made of the same water. No matter however you look at it, all of it is still water. So again, just like you, when you were born, you were considered a wave. And when the water becomes a lot calmer and the water dissipates, then the water becomes calm and smooth, then that wave dissipates. That would be similar to you dying. So was the wave born? Did the wave actually born, or did the wave arise? And did the wave just come as being a manifestation of the sea? And then it went back away? Was it born? Did it die? Did it come? Did it go anywhere? So when we think of ourselves as dying and going to a particular place, when we think of ourselves as dying and then going to a particular place such as heaven or hell, that would be the same thing as looking at the wave and saying, when the wave dies, the wave cannot in itself separate itself from the water. It cannot go anywhere else but just go back to where it came from. So as the consciousness, the conscious being, the enlightened being that you are at its core, you have to go back to where hence you came. You do not go anywhere else. You go back to where you came. The same way the waves appear, the same way the waves appear pretty much out of nowhere, and then they go back to where they came, back into the sea. The same thing happens to you. However, again, remember, like I said, for analogy purposes only, the clouds above, the sky above would be considered heaven, and the water below would be considered the earth, or hell, sorry, heaven and hell. So what most individuals who do not have a very strong spiritual grasp or understanding of who they are would say.
Just for the record, I realized something. Like these videos, just for the record, I created these videos some time back. This is a very new channel, very new, a few months old. and trial and error, not even just figuring out some of these things now. But when I created this video, I never went back and I never watched any of the videos that I created twice. So I don't really know what I'm gonna say. I don't know what's next gonna come out of my mouth. I'm reviewing the videos for the very first time, so I'm actually listening very carefully and attentively to see if I actually have a different perspective. Maybe I've learned something new that I could add to the information. And I realized something about this video. This concept that I'm trying to actually deliver is a very, very heavy concept. And I see myself, I know what I'm trying to say, but I see myself trying my very best to come up with these. And the thing is, because I don't use any scripts, I don't have any scripts. I have an idea what I'm gonna say, so I talk on the top of the dome. Whatever comes to my mind, I speak. So I see myself right now trying to use all of these very deep philosophical concepts, ideas, trying to express these ideas to you guys. And I realize this is a lot more. This was a very heavy concept that I was trying to actually relay. Just looking back at it, because like I said, I don't know what I was gonna say. I never looked back at the video, so this is almost like the first time I'm seeing the video uh, for the first time. Because like I said, the video is a few months old, and I never went back. I never looked at it. I edited it with the captions, and that was it. So, but again, this concept is very, very, very heavy, if I may say.
Say that when they die, again, because they don't know who they are, some individuals, again, remember, think they are the seaweed, and some individuals think they are the waves, some think they are the water. However, some individuals think that when they die, they would go from being the wave, which is on, again, at the bottom, the hell part, remember the top, the sky part is heaven, and the sea part as being the earth. But as you can see, we have a halfway point between the sky and the earth. So that would be, again, more like the individuals who are waves, a part of the sea, thinking that when they die, they are going to go into the sky. That is what I'm saying. And then the clouds, for example, being a cloud, being not actually thinking that you are a cloud, thinking that when you die, you're going to go to the sea. You can only go back to where you came from. And that is what I'm saying. The clouds, the individuals who do not understand who they are, who misjudge their identity, they think that they are the clouds. And when they think they die, they're going to go, again, when the clouds represent heaven, and then the sea represents hell. So, or vice versa. So the individuals, when they die in the sky, they think they're going to go somewhere completely different. They're going to go down to the sea. And then the individuals uh, who came from the sea, they believe when they die, they're going to go to the sky. And that is an analogy of what individual thinks what is going to happen to them when they die. Most individuals think that when they die, that they will go somewhere completely different from their origination. They believe, just like the sea, it is impossible for the sea to wave, to dissipate, and enter the sky. Yes, we have osmosis, and yes, we have evaporation. However, I'm not here to be scientific in all of that. I'm just talking about some illustration. And even if you want to use evaporation and all of those things, and condensation as example, let's say the water did go in the sky, over a period of time the water still returns back down to the earth. Even after it has been absorbed in the sky through osmosis, it still comes back down to where it came from. And just like the clouds too, they too appear in the sky, in the space that you are, and after a period of time they disappear back into the space, and then they appear back in the space as well. The clouds do not be born, the clouds are not born in the sky, the space, and then die and go and be reborn in the sea. They do not do that. The sea, the waves that are born in the sea, they are not born in the sea, and when the waves dissipate or disappear. They are not born in the sky. I hope this is making sense. Where I'm going with this is because without this understanding, we will tend to misguide again. Our judgment and our belief systems may have us confused because of not knowing what we are. We may tend to give credence to all type of fallacies, and these fallacies may not be accurate. So until this understanding comes to fruition, you would be considered dead, if I may say. So, which again, let's go back to speaking from a reincarnation perspective. When we look at all rebirths, whatever the case may be, like I said, when you were born as a wave. You were born as a wave, and it's most likely, I wouldn't say most likely, no matter how rough, some waves are rough, some waves are turbulent, some waves are, big and damaging. Those are the characteristics would be considered the characteristics of each individual. No two waves are the same. They may appear to be the same. They may look like they are the same, but they are not the same. No two waves have the same exact characteristics. They are very similar. They are very, very similar. Some of these waves may be indistinguishable from each other. However, they are different. They have a different, even if they're off by a few centimeters in size and length and width and height, they are different waves. However, because there are so many waves, just like so many people, we believe that we are separate, we are different, but the waves are all the part of the one water, the one sea. So,
You know, I'm gonna toot my own horn for. I'm gonna toot my own horn. This is heavy, man. This is really heavy. I think I deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I think I should get something for this, man. I should get some medal or something because this is beyond me. You know what I mean? Because this is heavy. I don't. Is it just me, or I really think this is heavy because, like I said again, most individuals, most individuals tend to believe because of this misidentification, not knowing who they are. They believe all of these, and again, all of these things that I'm talking about are allegories. I'm not saying that there's no you are the wave. Hopefully my viewers know I'm not, literally. This none of this is literal. All of this is metaphorical. So again, if you understand the concept, what I'm saying, if you do not know who you are, you would believe that you would be born one way, and then when you die, you're gonna go into some different form. Like if you take two sheeps and you breed two sheeps, you're gonna be they're gonna produce a sheep. Two elephants are gonna produce an elephant. Two birds are gonna produce a bird. However, there might be different species of elephants and different species of birds, but nevertheless, they're gonna be the same type of uh, animal, a bird, an elephant, or a fish, or whatever the case may be. So the same thing would apply again. Now, if you believe yourself to be something physical, again, if you believe yourself to be something physical, like the body or whatever the case may be, then you believe that you die, and then you believe that your physical body is going to go somewhere to burn. Then that is what because you don't really see yourself as being something else. You identify with this physical body, so you think when you die, this physical body is going to still go somewhere and be punished, or again, uh, eternal damnation in the lake of fire, or walk in the streets of gold, milk, and honey, and mad freak offs. So, because of this lack of awareness and understanding of who you are, if you see yourself as again being consciousness or awareness or something, that again what I teach or preach, if you see yourself as this, you only could return to whence you came. And if you are consciousness awareness, that intangible thing, that thing that cannot really be destroyed per se, you only could return back to being that consciousness, that awareness, that wave returning back to the sea. That wave that appeared in the sea, like I said earlier, was the wave born? When the wave disappears, did it die, or was it just a manifestation of the water appearing as a separate wave, and then when it dies or disappears, going back to the water. The same thing also applies to individuals as well. If you are consciousness and you came into existence, or you consciousness appearing to be separate individuals, again, not knowing who you are in the matrix and Maya, but then returning back to the pure consciousness awareness whence you came. That is what these videos are all about, building some type of foundation, some type of understanding, first and foremost, who and what you are at the core fundamental level. We're not talking about, again, titles. I am a doctor, lawyer, carpenter, waiter, waitress, beautician, barber. No, I'm talking about what you are at the core, the essence, the isness, the I-ness, the beingness of who you are. But that cannot happen unless you do some self evaluation, deep introspection through meditation and contemplation and deep, deep, deep spiritual practices, asking the self, who am I? That is what we're talking about. Coming to understand you're not the separate wave, you're not the separate cloud, you're not the seaweed, you are the water itself, and you are the space that contains the clouds and everything else in it.
So again, with this understanding, when the wave dies, the wave goes back to where it came, and when the clouds disappear, they go back into the space. And again, just like the clouds, you believe that you are an individual cloud, and then, however, you might come to the understanding that you are a part of all other clouds, and then you might say, okay, yeah, all of us are just one big cloud mass type of thing. However, you still might not understand that you are the space that the clouds appear in. When the clouds show up, they show up and they come. One day the clouds might be gray, one day the clouds might be clear, fully white, and so forth. And those two would be different characteristics. And there are many clouds that look alike. There are many, many clouds that look very, very similar, and they look alike, but they are actually not the same. Each and every cloud has its own unique, different characteristics, size, and all of that stuff. So the same thing applies to us as well. We may appear to be humans per se, but we all have different characteristics. But when we look at the bigger scale of things, we are all the same. So again, back to the cloud, back to the wave dying. When the wave dies, again, this is what happens when you are born. And when some individuals say that when we are born again, we go someplace else. However, when the wave comes alive per se, the wave actually, what happens to the wave is it dies, and some of that momentum, if I may say, some of the energy, some of the force that the waves that was previously there, that waves appears again. Not the same wave. No, the same wave does not appear again, but the force, if I may say, that original wave created is what is reborn. So just like reincarnation, which is a big misunderstanding. Most individuals believe when they hear the word reincarnation, they assume that they themselves as a person will come back to life. They believe that this is a huge misunderstanding. Even for Buddhists and Hindus, this is a very, very controversial and mixed subject matter. And for many may believe that they, as a person, comes back to life in a different shape or form. However, from my understanding is that when the individual dies per se, that person does not come back at all. However, just like the sea behind me, the waves may come and they may appear and then they may go away and then they appear again. So the only thing that is reincarnated is the sea itself, is the water itself coming back, the waves being smooth one day, the water being smooth one day, and then the next day or the next few minutes is rough, and one wave might be big and then it disappears and another wave appears. So the only thing dies and is reborn is the actual water, the sea, the land, the water, the mass itself. But however, not the wave, not the individual wave is not born again, is not reincarnated or does not give birth. When you die per se, it's not that you come back per se in a different, as you, in a different form, as a different wave or a different cloud. The clouds itself are all appearances that come from the space. The clouds come from the sky and they appear and they disappear in the sky. So why it is very important that we understand this also is because individuals who do not have this full understanding of what they are, they will misconstrue their identity and believe that they are the individual clouds, and they would say that. So again, individuals who do not understand this concept, what I'm saying is that they see themselves as being the clouds, as individuals, and then they see God. This is why all this information is important, because it's going to direct you to your ultimate belief. So they see themselves as being the clouds, and then they see God as being somewhere else. They see God as being the space outside of them. That is what they see. They see themselves as the clouds, and God is somewhere else apart from them, and the space around the clouds they would consider God. So they are not aware that they are the space. They think that they are the clouds, and they think that God lives inside of them. The cloud thing.
Let me just go back very briefly because I'm getting even more deeper and deeper and deeper as time goes on. But I want to just, I, and I am not by no means, I am a reincarnation specialist, because, that's, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Hindu. Those guys would be able to go into a lot more detail. I just understand some of the basic fundamental aspects of it, and some of my concepts, might even be somewhat contrary to what they may also say as well. But again, from my understanding, see, the difference is we tend to believe, like, as let's use for example the Abrahamic faith. The Abrahamic faith, uh, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Those who believe in heaven and hell, they believe that when you die, per se, whatever your name is, whatever your sex is, you die, and then you yourself go to hell to burn in the lake of fire for eternity, or you enter the kingdom, to walk in the streets, the pearly gates of gold, and drinking milk and honey, and big freak offs. The person that you are today, will enter either heaven or hell. That is what the Abrahamic faiths believe. They believe that when you die, you will wake up and you will be aware that you are you, and you will remember all of these things, and you will remember everyone, and so forth and so on. That is not necessarily the case with reincarnation and incarnation. And reincarnation and incarnation, those two in itself are different as well. That's why I said I'm not a specialist. The only thing I could do is use some examples, like I was saying. So, for example, would be like the waves. When the waves come in the sea and they appear, the rough waves, let's say some rough, really rough waves, they appear for some time, and when they die and they dissipate and the sea becomes a lot calmer, some of that momentum that big wave created earlier, that somewhat moves downstream, and then that there might be a new wave that appears. And so, according to incarnation, reincarnation, it's not the same person like in heaven and hell with the Christianity concept, believing that you will go to heaven and you will go to hell. Incarnation and reincarnation is something completely different. It's talking about the essence per se, the energy from that wave still exists when it goes down the stream and a new wave appears, it still carries some of that energy from the previous wave, but it's not the same wave. It's not the same person. It's not like so. Incarnation is not saying that if you die as Bob or John Smith or Pookie and Ray Ray, when you wake up, you're gonna be Pookie and Ray Ray or John Smith or Bob or Mary or Jean. No, that's not what it's saying. It's saying that some of the energy, the kinetic energy, some of the karmic energy that maybe Bob or Harry or whatever accumulated throughout the years, just like the wave, when the wave was big and strong, that when it disappears, some of that energy still moves down the stream, and then a new wave appears. It still has some of that same water. So the water may appear as a new wave, but it's still the same water. So the same thing applies as consciousness. Consciousness is appearing as different entities, appearing as you, me, the cat, the dog, the trees, the rat, and that consciousness, the same way the waves are only made up of water, but appearing to be separate waves, and when the waves die, they go back to being water. According to the Buddhists, the Hindus, the consciousness itself is appearing as different objects as you and I. And when you and I die, we literally don't die. It's just the consciousness decease or as appears to be dead, goes back into itself, and then comes back as another person. So no one technically really dies per se. It's just consciousness appearing as many separate objects: the trees, the birds, the cat, the rat. Everything that you see is just appearances of consciousness, just like the waves. Some waves may be calm, some parts of the sea may be smooth, some may be rough, but all of it is technically water appearing as uh, different textures, if I may say. Some rough, some smooth, but it's just one stream water.
Thinks that God lives inside of them, but they are not aware that God is the space that the clouds live inside. From a non-dualistic perspective, you are the clouds and you live inside of God, not the other way around. Most individuals believe that they live inside God, they are separate like the clouds. God lives inside of them. However, it is quite the opposite from a non-dualist perspective, and a Advaita Vedanta perspective. The clouds are living inside of the space or the sky, which is God. So when the clouds appear and disappear, they go back into God, and they go back and I'm using the word God from, because most individuals only understand, especially from the West, most individuals only understand the word God, but I'm just using the word loosely. Again, so individuals would see themselves as being the clouds and thinking that God is somewhere else outside of them and God is not a part of them. And I am here saying that this is a different concept, that God is actually the space that you are in. You are inside of God. And when you die, just like the clouds go back to where they came from in the sky, in the space, you too go back to the cloud, to the sky, to the space. And then when the rebirth or the reborn again, like the Christians or some individuals might believe that they themselves, the personal selves, would come back again and they would be as they were, as they once were. The concept that I'm talking about is that these individuals will not return, just like the waves does not come back, but there is going to be another wave that may be similar, with the similar energy, with the similar width, height, and a similar look, but they are not the same waves. So the only thing that is reborn is the wave, is the water itself. The only thing that is born again is the space itself manifesting itself as the clouds as the waves. That is what is actually being born. The source, the true self, the isness, the oneness, the I amness is the only thing that is reborn. So most of us, we tend to believe again that we will come back and we will do this and we will do that. But I am, again, from an educational perspective, my understanding is that the only thing that exists is the space, the clouds, sorry, the space that the clouds reside in. The only thing exists is the water that creates the waves and creates the oceans, the seas, and the rivers. So when we tend to have a fear, we have a fear for going to some place that we do not understand. We think again like we are the water, thinking that we can be the water and we are going to go from the water to the sky, or thinking that we're going to be the sky and when we die we're going to go to the water. It is pretty much impossible. We can only go back to where we came from, and that is what I'm trying to educate individuals to understand, that you only return back to where you came from, and that thing that you came from will manifest itself as other things, maybe similar energies of that sort, all different objects, everything that we see, the trees, the birds, the clouds, the animals, the insects, or everything that we see, the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky, all of these things are all appearances in that space. Even the water, the sky, everything that we see, the water is in that space. The sky is in that space. The stars is in that space. Everything that exists is in this space that I'm talking about, this space that you guys are calling God. And see, this is a different concept from what most individuals may believe or may understand. From a Christian perspective, this is something completely, totally different than what most individuals may understand. So hopefully this idea of what you are is becoming a lot clearer as we continue to go on.
So, like I said, very different concept from what we believe in the east, sorry, in the west, from what is taught in the east. Like I said as well earlier, the average person who believes in an Abrahamic faith believes that I am me, God is God, and I am separate from God. And most individuals would say that God lives inside of them. From an Eastern perspective, it's opposite. You live inside of God. You are an appearance, a manifestation of God appearing as you. I know it's somewhat, again, somewhat tricky, a very tricky, delicate subject matter for individuals in the West to adjust to. But again, just like the clouds, like I said, the clouds are positioned in the space. And when the clouds appear, they appear in the space, and then when they disappear, they go back into the space, hence where they came. You appear, you came from God, appearing to be you, and then when you die, you go back into God as well. And only so technically, the only real thing technically that exists is God. Everything else are just appearances of God appearing to be the trees, the birds, the rocks, and so forth and so on. Again, very difficult concept to grasp in the West, but that is what the non dualist concept is all about, that there is no separation between self and God. So, again, once this understanding is met, then self realization is achieved, enlightenment, awakening is achieved. Until then, like I said, you may be alive, but technically, from this perspective, you are spiritually dead.
So again, with this understanding, this is the understanding of what it means to be born again. Because when we were born, we were not automatically given life. We actually have to find life. We actually have to come to the understanding of what we are, and then life can be achieved. So most individuals just assume that because you are born, you are alive. And spiritually speaking, that is not the case. Which brings me to another. Now, what I'm about to say may sound extremely controversial, and it might be difficult for most individuals to grasp, especially individuals from the West. However, I too, before I came to this understanding, it was very difficult for me to grasp as well. However, as my understanding and I came to know who I was or who I am, then automatically the answers, the things that I once did not understand, they became clearer and clearer. So trying to do anything in this life without first knowing who you are would be somewhat futile, because even from a biblical perspective, when we look at Christos, Joshua, Jesus, he said that he came to bring life. Why would he say he came to bring life? And he said that he came to bring life. And why would he say that came to bring life if the individuals were already alive that he was speaking to? He was trying to let individuals know that despite the fact that they were alive, they were actually dead, because without the knowledge of understanding who you are, only then everlasting life can be achieved, because you are life itself. So that is why Jesus, Joshua, Jesus, or Christos, Jesus always spoke in parables, and he always said that those who have ears, let them hear, and those who have eyes, let them see. Why would he say such things if there were all types of individuals who saw him, all types of individuals who heard him, but he still made remarks stating that individuals may have heard what he said verbally, but that does not mean they understood. And there might be individuals who saw visually the things that he did, but they do not see visually. So that means that you can have ears and still be deaf. You could have eyes and still be blind, and you could be born, or you could be walking and talking, but still be dead. And that's what I'm talking about today. We are still, many of us are actually dead, thinking that we are alive. And so without this understanding, only then life can be achieved. So again, what I'm about to say may sound very controversial to many, and it's going to be very difficult for many to accept as well. However, the more difficult it is for us to accept this, what I'm about to say, is only because we do not know who we are. So again, looking back at the sea behind me, we're going to take the sea as an example. Again, we can use the waves, we can use the sky, but I'm going to stick with the sea. So for example, when we look at the waves, each individual wave that appears, that wave appears to have its own characteristics, its own personality, just like you and I. You tend to believe that you have your own feelings, you have your own attitude, and you have your own life, and you have your own breath, and all of these things. However, none of these waves, again, intrinsically has its own individual identity. All of these waves, once again, are made up by the sea. So again, each wave may appear to be separate individual waves, just like each individual may also appear to be separate individuals. However, like I said, what I'm about to say, or what I'm barking at, is that no particular wave is an individual wave. If we understand what I was saying so far, we would understand that all of the waves appear to be different, but they are all appearances of the same water. You understand what I'm saying? So just like each individual, we may appear to be separate individuals, appearing to be short, tall, dark, brown, whatever color we may be, whatever height, whatever weight, whatever size. We tend to believe that we are individuals. However, just like the waves are a part of the one sea, all individuals appearing to be separate is also only appearances of the one consciousness, the one awareness, the one true self, the isness, the I amness, the one true core self, just appearing to be separate individuals, but not knowing who and what you truly are. So, with that being said, just like the waves do not have any intrinsic uh, value on its own other than being water, being perceived as having a different shape or different size from the other waves, we too also do not have I know it's very hard to understand again, coming from what we're being told. It's especially in the West, it's a very difficult concept to swallow. However, when the time is right for individuals to understand what I'm saying, then this knowledge would be uh, accepted more easily. However, until then, we most likely we will reject this information because we don't know who we truly are. And that is why I'm creating this video again. So each wave, just like you, the wave does not have individual feelings. And just like you may appear to have a separate, yes, you have, I'm not saying that you don't have any feelings per se. Again, speaking from, you have objectively speaking and absolutely speaking, you have individually, yes, you may feel feelings and have emotions and things of the sort when you look at yourself as a separate wave or a separate cloud. You have separate feelings. That when you understand that you are the wave, you are the water, you are the mass of water everywhere, you will understand that you have no individual feelings. You are all only feelings that exist. They are coming from the sea. The water is the only thing that is experiencing the feelings. You are not feeling anything. You think that you have thoughts. Each individual waves does not have individual thoughts. Each individual wave has uh, thoughts or feelings of the one water. So you think that you have thoughts and feelings and emotions, and you think that you have all of these things separate from the sea, separate from the sky, but you are not separate from anything. So again, very difficult concept to grasp when we do not know who we are. However, those individuals who do not see themselves as being separate entities or see themselves as being separate waves from the sea, they would understand. And this understanding goes a lot more radical as our understanding evolves as well. Because not only do you do not have feelings per se, not only do you not have thoughts, you do not have anything because technically there is no you. Technically, there are no individual waves. It is just the water as a whole. And again, when we go deeper and deeper and deeper, we will see that individuals, now this is where it gets even more difficult to understand or accept when we do not understand. Most individuals believe that we have what they would call a soul, things of that.
I will stop right here. I will stop right here because this, like I said, I have never seen this video. I created this video some time back. I didn't have any script. I just pretty much spoke whatever came to my mind. I spoke about, and like I said, I see now. I truly see this is a very, very heavy, complex conversation. At least that conversation, because I'm only talking to myself. But this is a very complex subject, and so, like I was saying, so for, to grasp this concept, you have to really uh, go deep into, like I said, the esoteric teachings, the non-duality concept, understanding that the sea and the waves are not separate, though waves might be appearing to be separate, some waves appearing to be larger than some waves appearing to be more harsh, and some parts of the sea appearing to be smooth, but technically there's only one mass of water. And so the same thing applies to us as well. When we see ourselves not as objects and we see ourselves at the core of who we are, we will realize that we are not uh, who we think we are. We'll see that, yes, some of us may appear to be small in stature, some might be big in stature, some might be tall, some might be light skinned, some might be darker skinned, some might, sound a certain way. Yes, we all may appear to be separate, different beings, but when we get technical about it and we understand this teaching from the wave perspective and the sea perspective, we will realize that there is no separation from the water. There's only water. So the illusion is so powerful. To break free from the illusion is very, very difficult because we believe that we have our own independent feelings, we have our own independent mind. We just want to be independent just because that's the job. That is the job of the ego to keep us trapped in the illusion. That is one of the videos that I created earlier. The prison. We believe that we are this ego. We are this we believe that we are the ego, we believe that we are the body, and so it's very difficult for us to not see ourselves as any of these objective things. But once we come to this awareness, this realization, it is a very hard pill to swallow to accept that they're really technically what I'm going at, the same way the waves are not separate from the sea, and so therefore it's only the sea. We appear to be separate from the source, but technically there is no separation from the source. There's only the source. There is no you, there is no me. Your feelings are not your independent feelings. Your mind is not your independent mind. Your emotions are not your independent emotions. And again, the reason you may fight against this is because that is your ego wanting to hold on to the false self, keeping you back from self realization, keeping you back from enlightenment. That is all that is, the false self saying, hey, this guy is talking garbage. I exist, I am me, and I know who I am, and that is just the false self fighting, going, kicking, and screaming, does not want you to awaken. And so, again, very difficult concept to grasp, but that is the ultimate, if I may say, goal to enlightenment, to realize that there is really no self. Because if you understand the water and the wave analogy, the waves are not separate from the water. It is only the water appearing as the waves. When you understand the consciousness and the awareness concept, that there's only consciousness and there's only awareness appearing as individual consciousness, individual awareness, individual feelings, individual identity, only then you will come to the realization. That is why, again, like I said, Jesus Christus, Yeshua said that he came to bring life. Why would he say he came to bring life if we were already alive? So the focal point of this video is to understand that though we may be born, though we may be appearing to be alive, appearing to be living, we are not alive until we realize what we are. We are life itself. We are not anything else but life. And so, therefore, until we come to this realization, we are technically, technically, we are dead. And so, therefore, just because we were born and we came into this world does not mean that we are alive.
So, a soul, we think that the soul lives inside of us. And however, just like the cloud, with the understanding, thinking that you are the cloud, thinking that you are the cloud, and you think that God lives inside of you. Again, using the cloud as an allegory, same thing like you, do not know who you are, thinking that you are an individual and a soul or God lives inside of you, not understanding that you are the cloud and you live inside the space, which is God itself. So you do not have a soul that lives inside of you. You live inside of God. If you cut yourself open right now, many people would say, well, God lives in my heart, or wherever the case may be. And if you cut your heart open, you will not find God there at all. If you look inside your brain, you would find no thoughts at all. If you take every part of your body apart, you will not find a spirit there at all. So where is this soul that we're talking about? Where is the spirit that we're talking about? Where is it? Just like the waves thinks that is in an individual wave. Does the wave have individual thoughts? No. Does the wave have individual feelings? No. Does the wave have a soul? No. Does the wave have a spirit? No. The wave, the separate wave, has none of these things, but it appears to be a separate wave. And this is why I'm trying to educate you guys. I'm not here trying to, again, convince anybody. I'm just trying to give individuals the understanding, because when I first started to come across this information, this was very hard for me to grasp. I did not grasp it right away. And as time go on with determination, seeking, searching, and looking under every rock possible, then the understanding came clearer to me as I became more aware of who I truly was. But until that time, it all sounded like some type of gibberish. So that is what I'm saying again. You do not have any of these individual attributes that you think you have, such as a soul, such as a mind, such as all of these things. All of these things are all borrowed from the true source itself. In fact, there's no borrowing, because there's only the God, the source, the isness, the I-ness, the consciousness. That is the only thing that exists in non-duality. And in duality, we believe, or individuals believe, that they are separate from each other, they are separate from God. And that is what these videos are all about, coming to understand there is no separate nothing. There is only God. There's only the source. And until we come to that understanding, you will continue to see yourself as an individual wave or an individual cloud, not knowing your true powers, consistently, constantly seeking and searching for validation, seeking for happiness, and trying to quench your thirst in objects, thinking that one day you will arrive and you will find happiness if you achieve this particular job, if you achieve this particular thing. If you get this particular thing, you would automatically think that it's going to make you happy. But however, you will not ever be happy, because the only way you can be happy is if freedom is achieved. And the only way freedom can be achieved if you understand that you are freedom itself. By your true form, your true nature, you are free. And therefore, most individuals who do not know who they are, they think that when they get the object, they will become free. However, there is no object that can make you free. So until you understand what you are, only then you can achieve freedom and true happiness. And that is the root cause of why I'm creating all of these videos, giving different illustrations, pointing in different directions. That is the only thing I can do. I can point to a direction, and just like going to a restaurant, when you go to a restaurant and you see the menu, the food, the menu, the food on the menu is not the food itself. When sometimes we tend to believe that the menu is the food. When we say the word God, we tend to believe that the word God is God itself, without understanding who and what we truly are. So again, there is no technically on a individual level. Yes, the waves exist individually. Yes, they seem to appear. Yes, the clouds seem to appear individually. However, there is only water, and there is only waves appearing in the one water, as the oceans, as the rivers. There is only the space in the sky, the space that makes the clouds, allows the clouds to appear and disappear, but they go back to where they came from. They do not go anywhere else. So if you think that you're going to be a wave and you're going to die and go to the sea, so you're going to be a wave and then you're going to die and then you're going to go in the sky, that is somewhat illogical. And if you believe that you are the cloud, thinking that when you die, you're going to go to the sea, that too is also illogical. So that is what I'm saying. You think that you are a individual, not knowing that you are the sea, the water or the space. You think that when you die, you're going to go somewhere else. From my understanding is we only return back to where we came from. And as when we return back to where we came from, that source, that thing, then reappears as something else, as someone else. There may be similarities of that sort, but the self itself does not exist. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense, and hopefully all of my clouds and my water analogies brought some individuals, or at least one individual, more closer to knowing themselves. So with that being said, as usual, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for sticking around as long, watching my videos. Please like, share, and subscribe. And once again, Triple P, and I'm out.
Oh.
Man, that was powerful. I don't even know what to say. But seriously, now back on a more serious note, if you really understood what I was saying with at the very end, that was some powerful stuff because, like I said, we tend to believe ourselves to be separate individuals. We tend to believe ourselves to be the body, the mind, the feelings, our emotions, and so forth. And then, like I said, once we come to understand non duality for what it really is, non duality means that there is nothing other than the source. The only thing exists is God. There is no you, there is no me, there is no soul, there is no separate mind. All of these things are appearing as separate entities, but they are all only God appearing as different individuals. That is why I said this video, very, very powerful video. So if you are an individual who believes that, you are still separate from another, you are separate from God, from spiritually speaking, technically, you are dead. Until we come to the self realization, to self evaluation, self introspection, only then we can come to know who we truly are at the core as the one consciousness, the one source, the one true God, awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. But there is no separation from this entity, this non thing, this no thing that we call God. So until then, like I said, you may be alive, but spiritually speaking, you are still dead. So as usual, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for sticking around, watching this video. Very, very long live stream, very, very long. I cannot stress that enough. Your patience, your time, your attention is priceless. I cannot stress how much I appreciate you guys for joining the streams, taking the time out of the night to actually watch these videos. And again, I hopefully you guys got something out of it that was very educational and very informative, and even life transformation, life changing as well. So as usual, like I continue and always say, if you all please, please, please stop believing in illusions, delusions, and hallucinations. Triple P, and I'm out.